I want to ask you about these recent Trump comments. He spent a lot of the holiday on social media targeting Panama, Greenland, and Canada for possible U.S. expansion. What do you think is driving these moves? Who do you think is talking to him about this? And how far do you expect him to try to go to accomplish these goals?
I don't know. I mean, it is crazy that this guy is about to walk into the White House for.
There are so many bright stars in the Democratic Party, but one who shines a little brighter and maybe stands out more than the rest is Jasmine Crockett, who has been doing such an incredible job since the election, making sure we are not letting up, making sure we are continuing to call out Donald Trump and direct the right messaging that Democrats need in this next 4 years, how it can't just be all about Trump, but how we also have to call out the oligarchy that is forming around his administration, the billionaires who are filling his cabinet, and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who want to take as many government dollars as possible to put in their pockets, all while taking away your Social Security and Medicare. Jasmine Crockett is driving home that message, but also talking about the need for younger voices all throughout our politics. And she did so not only just calling out Donald Trump, but making a really important message clear on MSNBC in an interview that I want to check out before we do. If I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me. Now let's get into Jasmine Crockett with a brutal takedown of Trump and Elon.
Joining us now is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas and member of the Oversight and Agricultural Committees. All right, Congresswoman, when you hear those remarks, what are your initial thoughts?
Again, we have someone who doesn't know what he's doing. And, you know, this idea of, oh, you know, you're illegal and then you go out and have a child. It's not quite that simple, especially when you have people that are doing things like seeking asylum and people that are saying, listen, I'm just trying to make sure that I can live a better life here in the United States. And I want to do everything that I can to become an American citizen or at least get some sort of legal status. And you have, you know, Trump that goes out there, him and his minions, and they say things like, you know what, we're only going to get rid of the bad ones, right? And so people sit there and they're like, wait a minute, you're going to come to my job where I'm working and I may be paying into taxes or whatever, or my kids are at school. You know, I think that there's going to be a rude awakening really on all sides.
There's also, to me, the idea that vulnerable women without access to health care or birth control may or may not be choosing whether or not they are conceiving a child, but I'll leave that there. Yeah. Homan also said family detention centers could play a role in deportation efforts. And he added that those facilities would not be jails, but, quote, open-air campuses designed for families. I'm not sure access to fresh air was a lot of people's issue with that policy, but I'm wondering how plausible that sounds to you.
I'm curious to know if he's ever been to a jail or a prison. The reality is that these are nothing more than detention camps that look a lot like jails and prisons. I mean, obviously, there's what they call the yard when you go to a prison, and that is an open air facility. But, you know, there's always been a lack of humanity when it comes to immigration and this administration. If people remember the separation before, they may remember that, but they may not remember how much money it cost the United States when we were sued about the fact that these families were separated.
And deportations themselves are a really expensive prospect.
Right. We know, you know, Texas is like, hey, we will go ahead and give you the land to do what you want to do. But we know that there takes officers, right? So we're talking about needing to hire more officers to execute this. We are talking about you can't just throw people into facilities. You've got to make sure that you feed them, got to make sure that you're keeping them healthy.
Right. And those needs expand if you're talking about children and families as well.
Exactly. So it's going to cost us monetarily up front, but it's also going to cost us because we know, again, that so many of these people are actually contributing to our economy.
There's also this interesting kind of pivot where you've got, you know, Elon Musk pushing for more high-skilled immigrant tech visas and invoking anger from, you know, other MAGA supporters who claim foreigners are taking American jobs. And this is all playing out very publicly on Twitter or X, whatever we call it now. Do you think the Trump transition is sending mixed messages on immigration? And do you think they're going to be able to get on the same page?
I don't think that they've ever really had a message, right? Like the only message that we saw during the campaign was deport them, kick them all out, that kind of stuff. That's what he was saying at rallies. But, Democrats, we struggled because we could not really effectively communicate like why immigration isn't the most terrible thing that we've ever experienced, because it's not. We are a country of immigrants, right? And so because we haven't had these conversations about the fact that we get so many of our trained nurses right now, because we are losing so many in the healthcare field because of COVID-19, and we know that there haven't been investments made to make sure that we can have those workers coming up. We get a lot of them out of the Philippines, right? So we know that, yes, a lot of businesses, high-tech businesses such as Tesla, have been using those that are coming out of parts of Asia. So, it's crazy that we really aren't having these worldly conversations, or if we aren't talking about what happens with our food supply and who it is that's actually going to work agriculture, who it is that's actually working construction. Like, there are jobs here for everyone, not only those coming in, but those that are actually right here every day. Because when we look at the joblessness numbers, they are low.
I also want to ask you, another thing Democrats got flack for, in addition to not, pushing a comprehensive policy on immigration, was this kind of age gap, especially with President Biden. And, House Democrats are coming under fire now for not supporting Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for the top spot on Oversight Committee. And some are blaming the old guard. There's all these memes online, another millennial not able to take their job because some older person won't retire. Do you think she was treated fairly?
It depends on how you define fairly. I was asked a lot about this particular race as someone that obviously serves on the Oversight Committee. And, while I think that both are absolutely qualified, I do think that within the Democratic caucus, we are really stuck in our old ways of doing things, which is you get there by seniority. And so if you've been there longer, then you get the post. And I don't think that we fully sit there and say, who may be best equipped for this moment? That's not to say that Connolly is not, but I just think that overall, that's what we continue to see out of the House Democratic caucus. And I think that America is looking at us and saying, wait a minute, we lost the election and we know that the Senate lost seats. Now, the House, we picked up seats, right? But I think they are saying, we're looking towards y'all to show us that you're willing to shake it up if it means that we can move this country forward. But I think that oversight is going to be great under Connolly's leadership. He's obviously not someone who is new to this. He's very true to this. And I think that, within the caucus, we will have some conversations about how do we do leadership, because on the Republican side, they have term limits. And so you can't sit in those posts very long. So they end up shifting out their leadership a lot more frequently than we do on the Democratic side.
And now for something completely different, I want to ask you about these recent Trump comments. He spent a lot of the holiday on social media targeting Panama, Greenland, and Canada for possible U.S. expansion. What do you think is driving these moves? Who do you think is talking to him about this? And how far do you expect him to try to go to accomplish these goals?
I don't know. It is crazy that this guy is about to walk into the White House for a second time. And again, I kept saying on the campaign trail, this guy doesn't know who our friends are. Now, I can tell you that he loves to pal around with Putin, and we know that Putin has decided that he wants to bring back the former coalition that they used to have, and that's why he went into Ukraine. I am here to say that we've got to have really good people around Trump. And right now, the people he's picking are not the best people, because somebody needs to explain to him in a very elementary way why we don't go after our friends, why we don't start wars. And honestly, that includes even tariff wars with our friends.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
So clearly, a lot of important messaging to get out there from Jasmine Crockett. But when we look at our own party, and then I want to get into what she had to say about Trump and Elon, it is incredibly important that in this digital age of messaging, which you are a part of as well, just by watching this show, you are helping people like myself, or Adam Mockler, or Brian Tyler Cohen, David Packman, the folks at Midas Touch Bill build important democratic infrastructure to combat the right-wing ecosystem, which is already so well-funded. And I don't like to give them credit for anything, but they do media and organizing in this digital space really well when it comes to delivering their message. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate how we are a Big Ten of a lot of important ideas and thoughts on the left, but I do think it's important that we take all of those different ideas and opinions when we disagree and just make sure we're getting them out there and we're communicating to people who traditionally don't get their news from maybe regular news sources, and that we make sure that our messaging is starting to seep in, because this idea that the economy was in the toilet, or Donald Trump would somehow be able to fix it, or things that were better under his administration kind of came into the cultural mainstream dream. It felt like towards the end of the election, people talked about Donald Trump appearing on podcasts like Theo Vau or Joe Rogan, or hanging out with the Neck Boys on YouTube. And it wasn't just that Donald Trump presented himself as this sort of regular figure, how he kind of humanized himself a little bit on those podcasts, running against what is actually true about Donald Trump, that he's a horrible person, a convicted felon, and an insurrectionist. But nonetheless, we need to make sure that we are in those cultural spaces, we are in places, is where we can continue to deliver our message. And although Jasmine Crockett has been doing a lot of interviews on MSNBC lately, she's also appeared on a lot of YouTube shows, but it's not just about where you are, but it's about where your message can reach. And Jasmine Crockett, like she's talking about with AOC, and what I thought was a complete shame that AOC was not elevated to a higher leadership position. And there are many videos we'll make about that. But Jasmine Crockett is communicating in a way like AOC does, no matter how you feel about her politics, that people can relate to and understand and feel like is authentic and honest, because it is coming from both of them. And those are the type of voices that we need to elevate more in the Democratic Party. We certainly talk about the need for elevating younger voices, but Jamie Racin just moved up in his leadership position. And I wouldn't say he's necessarily the youngest person in the world, but he certainly does know how to communicate the authentic ideas that resonate with my generation, a generation that we certain need to tap into more. And Trump was able to, whether we like it or not, and we don't like it. So we got to make sure that we're doing that as well. And so I think it's important that Jasmine Crockett is talking about that she is delivering that message. And I want to hear more of it. And I want to hear more from Jasmine Crockett. And if you do as well, and you like this show as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around at the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.